Hello everyone. Thank you for joining today's webinar. In the webinar, we will cover configuration of business rule for the footprint application. My name is Megha and I am technical support analyst working with footprint product. Let's overview the agenda of today's webinar. We will cover business rule and their workflow, how the business rule can be configured with the different types of business rule option. Configuration of business rule will be covered by the demonstration with the different examples. If business rule gets failed, we cover the procedure of log generation and including the issues corrected in the patch version 2023-01, patch 1 and patch 2. Let's start the webinar. What exactly the business rules are? Business rules are the automated action that application perform when a certain conditions are met. It can be created based on the combination of various conditions and the actions that can be add and modify your data, such as sending emails notification when the record is created, updated and deleted based on the field updates. The rest of the information we have included with the demonstration in the next topic.
Business rule consists of three parts: trigger, criteria and action. The trigger defines a frequency or event cause the criteria of rule to be checked. Printer that determine if action should be performed, such as title content printer or cost is greater than 100. Multiple criteria can be defined and are connected by the and or operator. Action that are performed when the criteria are met. The multiple action can be defined and connected by the AND operator.
There are several types of business rule supported in footprints application. The following list of each type of business rule. Let's start with the after save business rule type. This type of business rule is used that you applied after saved record or either during the creation or when edited later. On-screen record type, this type is used for any rule that you want to apply immediately when record appears on user screen. Email notification, email reminder, SLA reminder and the customer survey, all the business rule type for the email related rules. Other business rules are default assignment, auto assignment, move copy for the item related rule. All this type of business rule we would see in the demonstration of business rule module. Let's understand the business rule workflow with the trigger, action and the criteria. The trigger asks the when the business rule create, you can select the trigger that run when a certain event occurs, such as after a ticket is saved or run based on the specific frequency. Example, every 10 minutes, every 15 minutes, when the business rule should get triggered. The trigger option varies and depend on the type of rule you selected. You can use a multiple trigger in a single rule and they all are logically by OR operators. Let's take some example. After save is one of the example of the business rule type. We can use time based on screen on page load for the after save type of business rule. As a part of business rule needs to define a criteria such as conditions that determine when the rules actions are performed. Many criteria can be created when the process the criteria for a business rule and operator is given precedence. Let's understand by the example. The criteria of A and B or C and D will be executed as A and B or C and D. The footprints allow you to define some actions for the business rule. The system filter that listed of available actions based on the type of item, selected rule type and the selected triggers. Here is some demonstration. We will understand the entire workflow process. Log in to the footprint application by administrative credentials. In the administrative task, select the desired workspace. Double-click on ticket container. Select the business rule under the task and you can see the multiple options of business rule type. Select the any of them business rule type. Options are visible in the module page. Give the business rule detail name as per the operation. Trigger, criteria and the action options available over here. Enter the title of business rule and select the workspace schedule. Set up the triggers option. For an on-screen business rule, there are limited options available on create and on update. The second option is criteria. There's a drop down option and you can see the multiple options are available there. For the criteria, the all options are same for all business rule type. And once you select the criteria, set up the condition. And the last option is action. Set up the action as per the footprints business rule should execute. All the options for the action condition, there are different actions available for the different business rule type. And so once the business rule gets set up, you can publish the business rule from the workspace to get execute. Let's overview the managing of business rule. There are multiple options to manage the business rule like edit, delete, active, inactive and copy existing business rule to create the new business rule with the same conditions and the actions. Let's understand the process by the demonstration. Log in to the Footprint application by administrative credentials. Go to the administrative task and select the workspace. Double click on the ticket container and under the task select business rule. Expand the existing business rule and select any of the business rule to understand the managing business rule process. Select any of the business rule and the managing options are get generated. Copy, edit, delete, collapse all, expand and help. Select any of the business rule and select the copy option to create the same business rule with the same actions and the trigger and the criteria. You can give the different name to the new business rule, which we have recently copied. Once the new business rule gets generated by the copying, you can publish the business rule to use for the further operations. Save the business rule. Go to the workspace container. There's a save and public option. Click on the publish. Let's go to the ticket container once again. Double click on ticket container under the workspace. Click on the business rule under the task and expand the existing business rule. Select any of the business rule and there is an edit option over there. Just click on the edit option to make any changes in existing business rule. You can add the conditions, trigger and actions here in the business rule. While managing business rules, there are other options available to manage it. Active and inactive business rule. If the business rule not in use, we can keep the business rule in the workspace by making them non-active. Let's understand the business rule configuration process. Anytime that you want system to take the action on the ticket or other item based on the specific criteria, you can create the business rule. For example, you can create the rule that change the priority of ticket based on the subject of the request or the title of the ticket. You also can set up the email reminder and the set a field value using the formulas. Business rule can be create any type of container. Let's understand the business rule configuration and the by by chart and demonstration. There are multiple stages of the business rule while creating. The first, enter the business rule details and the follow up with the business rule trigger frequency and the criteria and the action of the business rules. Let's understand the business rule configuration with a few examples. Log into the footprint application by the administrative credentials. Click on Administration tab and select the workspace. Select the container and select the business rule. Click on the drop-down option on the new business rule and select the after save business rule type. Enter the business rule name. We are creating the business rule to sending the notification on ticket create. Click on the triggers and select on create. Under the action, select the correct email template. The importance of the notification. And enter the specific email address. While sending the notification, notification will be received to the specific email address. And save the business rule. We can also modify the business rule by adding the criteria. Select the status. The status will be critical. And save the settings. So whenever manual ticket will be get generated and the status will be critical, the notification will be triggered to the specific email address that we have mentioned in the action. Let's move to the another example of the business rule. So log in once again to the footprint application. Go to the Administrative tab and select the workspace. Click on Business Rule option. Go to the Business Rule drop-down option to the New Business Rule. Let's create the business rule for email notification type. Enter the business rule name Ticket Close Notification. Whenever ticket will be get closed, the notification will be received to the ticket sender. Set up the trigger after save and update by user or role. Set up the criteria status equal to closed. Set up the action send notification to the ticket submitter. Select the email template and save the business rule configuration, and once the business rule configuration will save, publish the workspace. Here is the last example of business rule creation. Click on the new business rule drop-down option and select the BR type auto assignment rule. Give the business rule name Ticket Auto Assignment. Set up the trigger on create. Enable the checkbox for on create. Set up the action. Change the assignment of ticket to the agent. And save the settings. Go to the workspace and publish the workspace to execute the business rules. Here is a list of sub-business rule corrected issue in the patch version of 2023, patch 1 and patch 2. When you set up the send survey business rule, the configuration are not saved. We have fixed this issue in the patch 1. On screen, team assignment rule doesn't work correctly. If you create a ticket using a after-save business rule with a time-based trigger, this issue has been also fixed in a 2023 patch 1 version. If you configure on-enter business rule for a workflow to create a subtask and the configuring a time-based business rule for a workflow, trigger and email notification, although the validation criteria is not met, these both are issues fixed in a 2023-01 patch 1 version. If business rule gets failed, let's understand how to collect the logs to troubleshoot the issue. Add the core.rule debug level package filter to collect the business rule details and take the backup of log4j2 file from the footprints folder. The log4j2 file located at C program file BMC software footprints configuration folder. Edit the log4j2 file and change the debug to trace for a logger rolling to .level and want to trace. Save the log4j2 file and reproduce the issue. All the details will be captured in a droll working memory log file. This log file is located at BMC software footprints log folder. Let's understand the log collection process by the demonstration. Log in to the footprint application by the admin account. Click on Administration tab. Under the System Management, click on Server Configuration. Enable the login configuration. Set up the login level, debug or trace, and add the package filter core.rule. And save the settings. Now go to the C drive to make the changes in log4j2 file, C drive program file, BMC software folder. Under the footprint folder, go to the config and make the backup of log4j2 file. Copy the log4j2 file and place out of this folder. And edit the existing file. Make the changes from debug to trace for a logger rolling to .level. Enter the want to trace level for the root logger dot level and save the settings and reproduce the issue to generate the logs. Log will be generated C drive, program file, BMC software, footprints. Under the log folder, roles working memory and the footprint log will be generated. Conclusion of business rule footprints application process. We have covered the following topics in the entire webinar: workflow of business rule, types and managing of business rule rule configuration with the demonstration, business rule corrected issue in a footprint version 2023-01, patch 1 and patch 2, and how to collect the business rule logs for the troubleshooting.
You can explore the footprints document on BMC support portal for the business rule process. Here are some documents that will help you to configure business rule and adding the package filter to generate the logs.
Thank you for attending today's webinar.